Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Sustainable You Foodscaping webinar. My name is Georgianne Moss, and I am the Executive Administrator of Sustainability Outreach and Initiatives for Dallas County Community College District. I'll be your host this afternoon. Before we begin, let me say thank you to our valued partner, EarthX, which just completed its first ever multi-day virtual Earth event. Their resilience and flexibility allowed them to transform a three-day in-person event at Dallas Fair Park into a week-long virtual event in just 2 months. So we are delighted that they have sponsored this program, and their conferences will be available online at earthx.org in the next couple of weeks. This is also DCCCD's first ever virtual sustainability event. So our presenter today, as you know, is Dr. Casy, who is the Director of Urban Agriculture at El Centro College. Dr. Casy has served as Director of Ag since 2018 at DCCCD. She received her PhD in plant, insect, and microbial services from the University of Missouri at Columbia and holds a Bachelor's of Science in Plant Health Management from the Ohio State University. Dr. Casy enjoys spending time with her husband and her 2 dogs, and we are delighted to hear from her today. And Dr. Casy is going to try to answer all the questions during the webinar today, but if for some reason we don't get to your question, please feel free to reach out to her via her email, which you can see on the screen right now, kara.casey@dccd.edu. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Kara.
Well, thank you so much, Georgianne. And thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about foodscaping and how to grow your own food in your front yard and in your backyard as well here. So you've heard a little bit about me. I would love to hear a little bit about you. So please do take out your phone, come up to the computer and say hello in chat, just to let me know that you're here. Also, I'm going to ask Lori to help deploy 3 polls now that just give us a little bit more information about what you're doing at home right now. So our first question is, where are you tuning in from today? North Dallas County, South Dallas County, East Dallas County, West Dallas County, or outside of Dallas County? So please take a few seconds and let us know where you're tuning in from today. I'm going to answer myself here. Okay, great. And let's see if we can see those results. Okay, great. So 10 of us are actually coming from outside of Dallas County, 4 from north, 4 from south, 4 from east. Don't have anyone who answered from west, but I see that there's 13 of us who didn't get a chance to get to our phones or our computers in time. So you may be from west or wherever in Dallas County too. So we might have some folks. Okay, so let's move on to our second poll. Second poll is, have you tried growing your own food before? No, not yet, but I want to. Yes, but not in the Dallas area. Yes, for 1 to 3 years in the Dallas area, or yes, for at least 3 years in the Dallas area. So go ahead and take a few seconds to answer that. Okay, great. just thinking, compiling right now. Okay. Haven't gardened yet, 12. Awesome, I'm so proud of you. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, yes, but for outside of Dallas, there's 5 of us. Yes, 1 to 3 years, there's 8 of us, and yes, at least 3 years. There's 6 of us, and 10 of us still weren't able to answer. That's okay, I understand. Some of us have our hands full. So, all right, our third poll. You guys are doing great. Okay, our third question is, and last question, which growing spaces at home are you using or would like to use to grow food? First option is front yard, in-ground growing space, backyard, in-ground growing space, patio or balcony, or indoor growing space. About 5 more seconds to answer that question. And those of you who know me know I love my instant coffee, so as I'm sipping, I hope you guys don't mind. Okay, front yard. 7 of us are interested in growing in the front yard. 25 of us are interested in growing in the backyard. 15 of us, awesome, are interested in growing in the patio or balcony. And indoor growing, okay, 13 of us are interested in that too. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for answering, guys. That gives me a little bit more context of what you're interested in. I'll try to go into more detail then in different areas. And if, like Georgianne mentioned, if I didn't get to your question, please do reach out to me. I'm not sure if I'll have your specific email just by you entering a question in the chat. I will pause partially through this presentation to ask for questions. But again, if we don't get to it, please do reach out. I would love to hear from you. So I'm just going to exit out of the poll. Okay. And I'm just going to continue. Okay, there we go. So foodscaping, what we're talking about today. So foodscaping is essentially growing food in the landscape with an additional focus on aesthetic design. So we're not necessarily row cropping. We're not plowing up all of our front yard to make space for rows of vegetables, although some folks do that. I am a big proponent of, especially for those of us who are first-time gardeners, starting small and scaling up. Because the glory of gardening is you learn over time. It gets better, like an old wine. You get better and better over time. And sometimes if we bite off too much, it can be really discouraging. But we'll talk more about it. Not to discourage you now, but just to say that it's okay to start small, and however you start is great. Okay, so I wanted to tell you a story first. I was going to compare growing a garden to running a marathon, not something that you just leap into overnight, but decided to make it a little bit more personal. So, and tell a personal story of how I got into running way back when. So I grew up in the age of presidential physical fitness tests. Not sure how many of you on the phone had to take them in grade school or had heard about them from your kids or your siblings. It was a day when, well, not a day, maybe like a week or two, when in gym you would do as many push-ups, as many sit-ups as you possibly could. And the day that I dreaded the most was the day that we all had to run a timed mile. And just to complete a mile was like a marathon to me. It was very daunting to me. So when the day came and we had a very small gym, the gym teacher had set up cones all the way around the gym so that we could make laps, and she would count the laps as we went by. And to my horror, I was definitely the last kid to finish, but also it meant that all the other kids who had finished were against the wall because they have nowhere else to go, watching me finish these circles in front of everyone. And needless to say, very traumatizing. And I knew going into middle school, at 5th grade at the time, that 6th grade and 7th grade, we were still going to have to do a timed mile. And I decided I was never going to be that humiliated again or that afraid of having to run a mile. So I got into middle school and I heard about this thing called cross-country running. And I've always been a lover of the outdoors. And it seemed like the perfect place for me to learn how to run on my own without people watching me like a little mouse in a wheel. And I was going to work on my running. I told my parents, they were really excited. They're, okay, that sounds great. Not sure why you're doing this, but that's good. We will support you. And I'm very blessed to have very supportive parents, I should say. So they took me to Dick's Sporting Goods and said, okay, we're going to get you some shoes. And I was like, I will do you one better. How about you buy me all these other things? I heard that this goo helps with rehydrating when you run out of energy. And I've got, maybe I need a backpack for an extra water bottle. And I need these swishy shorts to make me go really fast because I'm serious, Mom and Dad. I really don't want to be humiliated like that ever again. And I'm going to learn, and I'm serious. But my dad sat me down and he said, no, Kara, I only say this because I love you. And it's going to end badly then. He said, I only say this because I love you. The swishy shorts and all that other gear is not going to help you right now. You're at a point where you just need to focus on running, just getting practice with running. All that other gear is for very advanced runners who, they need the extra minute off of their marathon or the extra whatever time that they shave off. Right now, you just need to work on lung capacity and being able to complete a lap, and that was very true. So looking back on it, the wisdom of my parents and saying, hey, just start with running shoes, okay? And we pretty much can all agree on that, right? That if you want to go start running, what you really need is just some good shoes. Don't distract yourself with all the extra gear. Just get out there and just start. Just run. It's really simple, but we like to complicate it because we think, well, maybe if I had that other stuff, it would be easier, or maybe I'd be more successful, or maybe if I get the wristband so that I can listen to my iTunes while I'm running, it'll make it more enjoyable. But still, you will still cry through your first cross-country practice and question every life choice that led you up to this point. So it's still painful, but it's rewarding. So all this to say, I'm a big believer in thinking big, starting small, scaling fast. So Jim Carroll wrote a book with this title. I think it's been used in other variations by other folks. Jim Carroll is a futurist and innovator. But I like this because it focuses on starting small. You can build. You start something, you figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then you learn from it, and then you do it again, or you make it bigger. You scale quickly over time. So maybe you do something this spring. That's great. You start a container. And then you realize, well, this went well, but maybe I could do this differently. And then the glory of Texas, we have 2 growing seasons every year and up to 3. You could plant another container this fall or even in the wintertime. So that's the general theme that I'm trying to build towards. So is running hard work? Yes. Is it rewarding? Yes. I feel very strongly about gardening too. Is it hard work? Are you going to get your hands dirty? Are you going to get your boots dirty? Yes. Are Are you going to work up a sweat? Is it going to be way too hot sometimes? Yeah, but it's rewarding. And these are some pictures of our students at El Centro College. They're the best. This is when they were at a field trip at UNT Dallas. They're putting some in-ground beds in, turning the soil and doing the hard work. And you can just see the pride, and maybe it's me because I'm biased as a teacher, but I just love seeing them react to these situations and have fun with it and learn and just enjoy themselves. This is another picture of the students at UNTD on the left, and then a student who made his own hydroponic system out of an old cheese puff container of all things, and then students who are building vermiculture, vermicompost worm bins to create their own compost. So all this to say, we sometimes can make it complicated when we, especially during the shutdowns that we've had and the new rise in interest in victory gardens. We don't necessarily need to go out and buy tons of equipment. Really, where your money should be spent, if you want my advice, is in the soil and making sure that wherever you're growing has good nutrition. You don't need the fancy gear. Just focus on starting small and then building up. Okay, but how do we start small? We'll get into that. All right, I did also want to mention, I think anyone who's had experience with running, having a running friend or someone to help you, just to be there, to be a running buddy or train towards a marathon or half marathon together really helps. So having a friend there helps a lot. Gardening, same thing. It's a team sport. If a disease pops up on your tomatoes, there's a lot of great Facebook groups that we have in North Dallas, Central Dallas area that would rush in, and if you send them a picture, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's definitely bacterial blight or fungal blight, or maybe your nutrients are deficient. So reaching out and looking for those friends intentionally really helps make a difference in your success as a gardener, and even just to bounce ideas off of. And I would be willing to be that friend to you. I love pictures, so if you describe a plant disease to me over the phone, it's helpful, but sometimes the problem is in the context, and I'll see something in the picture that you might not think of mentioning. So pictures are always really helpful when you send those in. Okay, and also on a plant path note, plant pathology note, that was my undergrad degree. Normally when a plant is sick, it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. So if a plant is drought stress, that drought stress, those stress signals are going to attract insects. Those insects create wounds, which predispose it to bacterial and fungal diseases. So you could be battling 3 or 4 different issues and not even realize it. So all that to say, totally normal, been there before, and we can get over it. Just let me know. Okay, and simply wanted to mention that it's really important in building community. I think it's a really powerful tool to grow your own food in bonding different folks. So this is our environmental club. They grew this raised bed, this planter of different herbs, and I'll show it to you a little bit later here. And this again is our class out at UNT Dallas, working with UNT Dallas students in a collaboration between our 2 schools. So how do we start small? Well, in the age of foodscaping, well, in the topic of foodscaping, I did a lot of research, and I feel like the best answer is check with your homeowners association because there are a lot of different regulations. So what I'm showing you right here are some screenshots from different pages that I pulled. This is from the City of Dallas website, and this is actually, if you can read the watermark in the background, It's unofficial, easy to read language, which is saying something because it's still a little confusing. But so if you're living in the city of Dallas, within the city limits, your land probably has a landscape plan, whether you realize it or not. And if you change it, it can get a little complicated. So if we're talking about incorporating edible plants or just different plants into an existing landscape, if it's a substantial enough change, you might need to file some additional paperwork. But there are some allowances for gardening, which we'll get to here. So I'm screenshotting this for your context. If we have lawyers in the group on the phone who understand this better, or even better yet, folks from the city, that would be very helpful. I just want to let you know it is fairly complicated. So, and there is money attached to this. So general maintenance, the way that they score what is required within the landscape, and what you have to turn in for the landscape plan. There is a landscape checklist. And on the right-hand side, you can see the fee schedule in order to, well, that's really blurry, but in order to make a change. So Grow North Texas is really awesome because they put together a guide for getting started in urban agriculture. And I just clipped out 2 pieces from this guide, and the link is up at the top that talks about the accessory use of a garden in a residential setting. I would still say that your best bet is to check with your homeowners association to make sure that they're okay. And you can see in that first clip there, again, recommendations are that a simple written agreement be created. So just get a simple written agreement to document that no one's going to get upset, no one's going to be upset by any changes that you make to your front lawn. So having said that, I wish I could give more detailed information, but because we live in such different areas, I'm glad to see that we're coming from all over Dallas, probably outside of Dallas in the suburbs as well. But it is so detailed, and because there is money attached to it, I do want to be cautious about how I answer some of those questions. So you do want to check with your homeowners association and reach out to the city if you have any questions, okay? So with that, I'm going to pause, and I know it's kind of a boring place to stop, but are there any questions so far? And then we'll get right into the fun of it, the plant. So I'm a teacher, so I can deal with awkward silence. So I will deal with awkward silence for 10 more seconds, and then we can move on.
I think we're good right now. We can move on.
Seeing none, we'll go on. So thinking big, starting small, scaling fast, I would add in there act now. So we want to start something now. We don't want to just sit around and think about ideas and what the best thing to do is. To a certain extent, we do, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. And truly with gardening, you're going to fail forward. You're going to learn something from whatever you do. Like, well, I used this pot, but it didn't have really good drainage. Well, you learned something, and that's okay. That's great. That's awesome that you would learn something. So whatever you do, I would encourage you to start it now. So with the Victory Garden craze that is retaking the country, which is great, I'm excited to see folks are interested in growing their own food at home. We can look back to the past and say, okay, Victory Gardens, they were something that was promoted by the government during World War I and World War II to help folks during the war effort grow their own food so that they would have better food access during the time of rationing and nutritious food access at that. So if we look back, this picture is beautiful, but it actually does not really remind me too much of my current living situation, which is I'm living in a condo with a patio. I don't have a ton of land, and I'm looking around at my neighbors, and they don't have tons of land either. And the best way to start gardening is to be somewhere where you are constantly, so you're always walking by it. I know Daniel Cunningham and Nick Bertner enjoy the quote, which I do too, that the best fertilizer is a gardener's shadow. I completely agree with that. So you want to start a garden wherever you are going to be walking by the most, because you're always going to look at that plant and see if it needs something. So being in a place with only a patio, what can I grow? And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. Dallas-Fort Worth area saw the biggest population growth in Texas in 2018. That was a headline from the Texas Tribune a year ago, and it's still continuing to grow. So this is actually what I see when I think of Dallas. I think of downtown, people living in apartments without immediate access to soil, not dirt, but soil, the structure of soil in the ground. How are they supposed to grow their own food, other than, of course, indoors? And we know that very well. This yellow circle is El Centro. So we are right downtown with you. We don't have land that we are cultivating. We are cultivating the roof. So we have a rooftop greenhouse, and all of our gardens are in containers. So this is a picture of a geranium that one of our awesome staff members at El Centro took. So we have 2 greenhouses that were just installed at El Centro about a year and a half ago. And we also have a live wall. It's a vertical growing wall. You can see the spigots there. It's automatically regulated. It's on an auto timer, so it waters once throughout the day, and you can program it. So what we have here is lettuce and kale growing, and then beneath it in those brown square containers is some cabbage. And we also have containers hung up around campus in different areas. So we have basil here on the left. We have a squash vine in the middle, and then we also grew some tomatoes. And these are our awesome students who help take care of it and install them. And this is one more picture of different seasons that we're growing in. So this is some parsley that we were growing in small containers on campus, which is really helpful to test what grows well in different areas. Again, we're acting now, starting small and iterating. You do want to test it out. Not everything's going to grow well in different areas. An area might receive a lot more shade than you were anticipating, or a lot more sun than you were anticipating, which is okay. You just plant different things in those different locations. For example, parsley can do okay without that much direct sunlight, as can cilantro and mint. So how does this apply to foodscaping then? So imagine if you had this beautiful place, doesn't have a lot of space for in-ground or raised bed garden, but it does, the owner has made a creative use of a container garden of sorts on the wall. So these, I think, are geraniums growing in here. So we could switch those out for cilantro or mint and parsley, like what we had at El Centro. But although this is gorgeous, a lot of folks in Dallas, this is the space that they have to work with of sorts. Some kind of a railing where they can hang plants, and then some sort of a space where they can put some more heavier containers to grow other vegetables in. And this, I feel, is a very underserved part of urban agriculture. There's some extension literature around it from the University of Maryland, but University of Maryland is a very different climate and growing region than Dallas, Texas. So I'm very excited to show you some new material today that Jeff Reska helped put together with me for these containers. One last thing, I did want to mention, if you're doing large containers, I highly recommend these. Not making a sales pitch for a specific company, but I enjoy two things about them. Well, three. One, it holds a lot of soil. So that's great because it's better for the roots. The soil just holds more nutrients, more water. You don't have to water it as often. Two, it's on wheels. So if you need to move it around, say the dog got into it, or you just want to move it to a different part of the balcony or on a different porch, you can move it. And these do get fairly heavy, so wheels is a plus. That's good. Third, it has a reservoir. So you'll see in the back, there's a black pipe there, or black tube that goes down to the bottom. And that's where it just funnels down to a reservoir. There's a grid that sits a little bit higher than the bottom of this container, and that supports the soil. And then underneath, there's a space where you can put in excess water. So if you're gone for a few days, the plants will still survive, and you don't have to get someone to come and water your plants for you. So if you're ready to get started and you want to start small, which edible plants should you plant? What grows well? And the two questions you should be asking are what grows well in the Dallas area and what month is it? Because plants are very temperature dependent. They're exposed to the elements. Unlike animals and people, they can't run away from things. They are exposed to the elements, and the time of year really affects their growth. Okay, so this is the new material I'm excited to show you. So we listed a few vegetables that we think grow well in 5-gallon buckets. So again, with the idea, starting small. And you can beautify it if you want. You can use something decorative because I know 5-gallon buckets aren't like the most gorgeous bucket, but I would argue multiple of them lined up with beautiful lush vegetables does look kind of cool. So if you are more game for trying this in a decorative container, that's cool. We just suggest the amount of soil volume be about 5 gallons, okay? So there are a few of these plants that we're recommending you put a tomato cage in with to help support the shoot development. One of the things that's confusing too is some of these plants do better with what we call, with transplant. So it's really hard to start tomato seed if you're a beginner. And cucumbers really don't like being transplanted. So there are certain plants that prefer being transplanted, and other plants prefer to be what we call direct sown. You just put the seeds directly in the place. Root vegetables are like this as well. Little carrots you see up there. It damages the root whenever you transplant it. Therefore, if you're interested in that root, aka the carrot, getting as big as possible, you really don't want to transplant it. So there are certain plants which prefer to be direct sown. Certain plants prefer to be transplanted just because it's too hard, or just a later project to try starting them from seed yourself. So let's walk through some of these. I don't want to short you in just an explanation of them. So when you get a 5-gallon bucket or even a container from the store, a decorative one, you want to add a lot of drainage to them because in containers, the soil can get very compact, and roots thrive when they have a lot of air. They need the oxygen in order to grow properly. So you want to be sure that your bucket or your container is fully draining. You don't really want a like a lid underneath it holding water. You want it to be able to freely drain away. If it is holding that water, you've effectively sealed off the ability for gases to permeate up through on that underside, and all the oxygen is coming just from the top down. Also, you're breeding what are called anaerobic bacteria, which are not good for the healthy air-loving bacteria and fungi in the soil. So all this to say, you want to be sure that your bucket freely drains. So this again is outside. If you have a plant growing indoors, like I wouldn't suggest any vegetable plants be grown indoors like this, but if you have like a palm or something, just be sure that you're draining it every once in a while, that it's not sitting in water constantly. And fun fact, plants wilt when they get overwatered, not just when they don't have enough water. It's about cellular turgor pressure and stuff. But yeah, so it's definitely possible to overwater your plant. Okay, so once you drill the holes,
yeah. Kara, this is Georgianne. I just want to ask, you're saying drill 8 holes that are ½ an inch wide, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so you want to use a drill bit that's got a fairly large hole, like a hole saw bit that'll drill holes into the bottom. If you don't have one, you can just drill tons of small holes, but it's just easier if you invest and get the hole saw bit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so then once we've drilled the holes, you want to rinse the bucket with soap and water. We don't want to use buckets that have ever had toxic chemicals in them. Only food grade quality buckets or brand new buckets. Do not use buckets that have had pool, Clorox, bleach, cleaning chemicals in them, harsh chemicals. Don't do that. You are eating this, of course. And then you want to fill the mix with potting soil and compost, and then add in organic vegetable fertilizer every 3 weeks to continuously feed the plant as it grows. Because again, it's a limited volume of soil that it's growing in. So it's going to eat up those nutrients over time. So you want to continue to feed it. Okay, so I'll skip ahead here. So peas. I just wanted to walk through, I know I'm at 40 after already, briefly the different vegetables, just to give you a glance at them. I don't expect you to absorb all of this information, but I'm hoping that when you come back, maybe in the fall, and want to plant some peas, or next spring and want to plant some peas when it is, I can't see it because it's covered up, mid-January to mid-March, because of course we are past mid-March now. It's not the recommended planting season for peas anymore, unfortunately. They're pretty cool. That you can come back to this video or to the handout, because we'll have a link to the handout that you can reference then. There are a few varieties that do really well in the Dallas area. Jeff Roska helped put all those together. And again, all this information is courtesy Jeff. So I'm going to skip ahead. Peas, carrots, very similar. You're going to fill up the bucket the whole way, add in the seeds to that 1/8 inch planting depth. Potatoes are interesting, lots of fun, very tolerant of lots of different weather. They do appreciate the sun, but it's such a gorgeous plant, guys, and it does really well in the 5-gallon buckets. So I really highly recommend it. If you have never grown potatoes, to try it, because it's a lot of fun. I tried it for the first time this past year, and they're just gorgeous plants with the class. So you're going to bury it, and then the shoot will come up, and then just so that it can emerge right away and start getting those sugars from photosynthesis, then you're going to bury it again, just slightly, and then it's going to continue to grow, and you're going to continue to mound it until that bucket fills all the way up. And there's 3 varieties. They mature at different times. So the Norland matures first in 70 days. And then we have just the other varieties there. With chard, we're suggesting here that you start 3 seeds, just for ease of explanation. But, I mean, insider tip, if you want to start 5 or 6 seeds, and then 4 of them come up, then you just, what we call thin, take out one of the 4, maybe the smallest or most scraggly looking of the 4, so that you have 3, you're for sure going to have 3 healthy shoots emerge. Less is more. If you overplant, you put in 10 of the seeds, that chard is going to choke itself out. It'll make the plant more flimsy. It's not going to be as tolerant to the wind outside. It's just, and you can test it too. I was going to say you just have to trust me on this, but I encourage you to not trust me, test it, and see how it goes for yourself. I'm all about experimenting, scientist, of course, right? Collards, same way. You're going to aim for 3 plants. Kale, same. Turnip greens are a little bit smaller, so we're suggesting 8 seeds. Mustard greens, same. Bush beans, we're suggesting here 8 seeds. We did suggest that you put in a tomato cage with these, just so that they have a little bit more structure. Sometimes when those beans form on the shoots, they can be a little heavy, so this gives them a little bit more structure to bounce around in the wind with. Cucumbers, same thing. Cucumbers are vining. This is actually the bush type of cucumber, the 3 varieties that are suggested down there in the corner. For aesthetics, uniformity is very pleasing. So if you can do groups of plants or lines of plants, that's more aesthetically pleasing. So doesn't matter what plant, if you're growing vegetables or ornamentals, that's just a general design rule. So that's what we're doing here in this live wall. And these, I was saying, they're just pictures anyways. They're various herb plants that are mixed in with some ornamentals. And just wanted to show you that. And corn, of course, is shooting up in the back there. And then different cole plants. So we got some kale and cabbage there. Some more corn in the background. And Bree Arthur, the one who's growing these pictures and growing these gardens, taking these pictures, she has a really good book called The Foodscaping Revolution. I highly recommend it if you're interested in learning more. She is the expert, as far as I'm concerned, with foodscaping. And I guess this isn't actually full screen. Sorry, guys. And then there's some black basil and with some more. And then I think either leeks or wild garlic. She's also a big proponent of using grains as decorative grasses, which I think is pretty interesting. And she actually collects it and harvests it. There's a whole bunch of wheat, which I think is just so gorgeous. And then peppers and flowers mixed in together. And this is actually a hydrangea that is supporting a tomato, if you can believe it or not. I can't imagine the airflow is too good through that patch, and of course, tomatoes need that airflow and the structure so that they don't snap, but also airflow so that they don't get diseased. But that's an idea. And then there's, they said it's some basil, but it is really some sort of an herb related, hopefully. And then some more just ideas, got some tomatoes in the background and some decorative peppers. And the show and tell, if there was time, was just some different plants that I had growing outside. Since the shutdown, all the shade plants that couldn't fit underneath the live wall at El Centro have been in exodus with me here at home on the patio. So I just wanted to show you really quickly. So this is a mint plant that has been growing in some partial sun, partial shade. And you can see the growth habit changes, a little bit more spindly when it's more shaded. Okay, and this is mint that had been growing in full sun. You see how short and compact and cute it is? So sometimes it's just the amount of sun that plants receive, but mint will still survive in a shaded area. It is hard to kill, and in fact, I highly recommend that you don't plant it outside of a container because it tends to take over. It's kind of invasive. So do contain the mint, but it does well in that context. This is some cilantro that was growing in the shade. So it is still possible to grow some herbs in a shaded spot. It's not as robust as something that you might see in the store, but it would be if it had more sun. But if you don't have the sun, this still works. Did want to show you some sweet potatoes that I have going. I was going to make a video, but I just wanted to show you guys right now. This is how you start sweet potato slips. And if you're interested in some greens that you can stir fry and cook and put into different cooked meals, sweet potato leaves are really good for that. If you grow them in a container, they wouldn't produce the tuber, but they would still produce the shoots. So if you're looking for a green and you have limited space, this is a really prolific grower. Sweet potatoes are great. Also wanted to show you something. This again happened at the El Centro greenhouse. We had a fern, and while planting some kale in flats, some of the seeds fell. And so we have, you can see in our Kimberly fern here, one rogue kale plant hanging out. And he survived just fine in my shaded patio space. It's really hard to start seeds like kale in the shade. They get really long and spindly. But once they're started and you transplant them or you're just keeping them alive in the shade, they'll still continue to grow. So that's an option for you as well. And last thing, just because I'm a plant nerd, I wanted to show you. I know Mother's Day is coming up, Father's Day too. And this is the candle that I cleaned out, and I just put some philodendron in it, and it's doing really well. Philodendron does well actually just with the cuttings in water. It's kind of an anomaly when it comes to airflow in the roots. So it's just a little gift idea if you guys are interested in creating some gifts for plant lovers in a sustainable recycling way. Other than that, I just wanted to say agriculture is a great career field. If you, people are always going to be eating, we're always going to be facing changes or challenges to our food supply one way or another. So we're always going to need people who know how to grow plants and raise animals. So with that said, we do offer 8 courses at El Centro College in agriculture, completely transferable towards a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree. And they're not like workforce courses. They're meant for transfer so that you can complete your bachelor's degree in the agricultural sciences. So if you guys are interested, we have several courses that are opening up for the fall. So please do check us out. And with that, I wanted to thank a few very important folks. Mariah Brown is our lab coordinator and instructional specialist. She takes care of all of the plants and makes sure that they're alive and healthy, and our worms too. Didn't talk too much about them today, but she's the mastermind who's keeping everything alive and healthy. And Jeff Raska, again, huge shout out to helping create that very much needed extension material for container plants in the Dallas area. Also wanted to mention Tammy Clark is our senior grants manager who helped us install the greenhouses and helps keep everything running quickly to the clear. And Dr. Rebecca Britt is our project director for the grant that's helping fund our work. Of course, our El Centro College facilities team, they make sure that our plants don't get messed with and that they look after them and help us with different odds and ends, because we are a lot more facilities oriented because we're outside and we're doing a lot of things on campus. So they put up with us, and they're very gracious with us. Beth Stahl is our executive dean, who's been very supportive of our program. It is new, so there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, and she's been very supportive. And Dr. Greg Morris as well. Same, is very, very supportive. Couldn't ask for more support. And Jared Times is our partner at UNT Dallas. We do have a grant that we're both funded off of. And of course, you saw our students working together in those field trip photos. And with that, I think I'm just like a minute or two over. So thanks so much, guys, for hanging with us. And I'll take questions if anyone's still on the line, if we don't get cut off.
Well, actually, we do need to go ahead and end. So if you could put your email address back up.
Okay.
And anyone who has a question, please email Dr. Casey, and she will be happy to help you. Thank you again for joining us